Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. I wanted to do a video that kind of gave a demo and an overview of Curse of Strahd's famous Tarokka reading, or recently I found out it should actually be pronounced Tarokka, when I discovered this through listening to the Strahd audiobook, the second one, Strahd 2, Keep Strahd in, I'm only joking, it's called The War Against Azalin, where the seer, I don't think it's Madam Eva, I think it's someone else, has a Tarokka deck, is how they said it. So I apparently have been saying it wrong all this time, but I'll try and say it right for this video. If I slip into my old habits, please forgive me. And the reason I want to do this video is because I've seen posts in the past on places like Reddit, Facebook, etc., where people, even though I think it kind of, the book does a good job of explaining how the Tarokka reading works, I think people get a bit, I think it can be a bit intimidating and overwhelming. And I've seen some posts where people say, I don't kind of get it. I know there are some people who learn better by seeing something and seeing like a demo of it first of all. So that's the goal of this video essentially. What I'm going to do is I'll transition away from this spot here to my kitchen table, that fancy Tarokka location, and do a demo. I'll do it twice. I'll do running it through, kind of talking it through step by step. And then I'll do it a second time where I don't sort of do additional talking. I'll do it as if I were doing it in front of players or you're doing it in front of players, and to give you the sort of full effect of how it should go. Then I'll come back to me sat here talking about other stuff afterwards, such as alternative ways of doing it. There's some people who remove cards before doing the draw but still do it random. This is what I did when I originally ran it. There are people who stack and rig the deck, so they choose what cards. And then I put out a product on DM's Guild that I think is like a nice sort of in-between. It's still random to an extent, but still also controlled and stacked to an extent. And I'll talk about those later. If you're new to the channel, then hello. As I mentioned, this is DM of the Mists. I cover 50/50 Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft videos. Please subscribe if you haven't already to see videos in the future, or feel free to mine through the videos I've done in the past. I've done about 25-30 Curse of Strahd videos at this point. Firstly, let's give a quick overview of the Tarokka element in the campaign. So at some point, hopefully during the campaign, your players will meet the NPC Madam Eva, and she gives them a Tarokka reading. Draws 5 cards, and each card corresponds with an element of the campaign. 3 of them lead the players to 3 special and important items. The Tome of Strahd, which gives information about Strahd, the campaign's main villain, obviously. The Holy Symbol of Ravenkind, which can be effective in fighting vampires and vampire spawn. And the Sunsword, which can be very effective in fighting vampires and vampire spawn. And then the 4th and 5th cards are a fated ally, although the official terminology is Strahd's enemy, who will ally with the PCs and fight Strahd with them. And the last one is Strahd's location in Castle Ravenloft. There's like 10, I think-ish, different locations he can appear. And if you don't have access to the Tarokka deck like I do, the official one, you can use regular playing cards. And the book gives information on what suits correspond with what. I think it's the numbers 1 to 10 are the common deck, low deck cards, and the Jack, Queen, King, and Jokers correspond with the high deck cards. And you're also meant to do it, so you're sort of meant to do it twice. You do it once for yourself, for private purposes, if you will, and this is for the off chance that the players don't get their card reading from Madam Eva, or they happen to come across a item location before they do, but they might just happen to stumble across it as they're exploring Barovia. And then the idea is that when they have the proper second time you do it in front of Madam Eva, the results from the second version override the first, if you will. And that's it in terms of explaining it. I think I'll jump ahead now to showing you how it works. Okay, and we move on to the demo part. I'm attempting to do a 2-camera thing, so depending on how it goes, you may see my face, but the lighting in the room makes me look very pale. You just have to pretend that a vampire is doing this reading for you instead of Madam Eva. So, I have got the book, as you can see, and here's my hands, hello. Oh, I probably won't edit much of this part of the video, so you might have periods of silence and ums and ahs, because otherwise my hands will be all over the place if I do lots of edits, just as a heads up in case you're wondering. I've got the common deck here. This is all the item cards. The high deck here for the ally and for Strahd's location. So we have the information here. So I'm going to do it once first of all, where I kind of just talk through it all. So it says that you shuffle the cards. So I'll shuffle this deck. They're already pre-shuffled, so I'm not going to go to town shuffling them. There we are. And then you lay down 1, 2, and 3 like so. We definitely do the right deck there. And then the high deck from these ones. Whoops. Spoiler alert there. 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And once they're all laid down, it says flip over card 1 and read. This card tells of history. Knowledge of the ancient will help you better understand your enemy. And then it says that this card determines the location of the Tome of Strahd. So we got Enchanter, 3 of Stars. And I read, I see a kneeling woman, a rose of great beauty, plucked too soon. The master of the marsh knows of whom I speak. And that is Marina's monument in Berez, is where the Tome of Strahd lives. We go back to this page. Flip over card 2. This card tells of a powerful force for good and protection, a holy symbol of great hope. And it tells us this is for the Holy Symbol of Ravenkind, and read the box text for the appropriate card. Diviner, 2 of Stars. Look to the one who sees all. The treasure is hidden in her camp. And this actually corresponds to Madam Eva's encampment. If she's the one performing the card reading, she says, I think the treasure is under my nose, and pretty much gives it to them straight away. So, lucky party have already got a hold of the Holy Symbol of Ravenkind. At least it's not the Sunsword. And then go back here, the Sunsword. Flip over card 3 and read. This is a card of power and strength. It tells of a weapon of vengeance, a sword of sunlight. We got the Rogue card. That's Master of Coins. I see a nest of ravens. There you will find the prize. And the treasure is hidden in the attic of the Blue Water Inn. So, those are the 3 items. Then it tells you to go back. Flip over card 4. This card sheds light on one who will help you greatly in the battle against darkness. And then it says to go to the corresponding card, so that's Broken One. So under the Strahd's enemy section, we've got 2 choices here. You can either choose the Mad Mage of Mount Baratok or Donovich. I'm going to choose the Mad Mage. Your greatest ally will be a wizard. His mind is broken, but his spells are strong. And then finally you go back, card 5. Flip over card 5, that's this one in the middle. Your enemy is a creature of darkness whose powers are beyond mortality. This card will lead you to him. And it's the artifact, and make sure as well that you don't accidentally read from Strahd's enemy again. Strahd's location in the castle. Artifact. He lurks in the darkness where the morning light once shone, a sacred place. And Strahd faces the characters in the chapel, area K15. Okay. So I'm going to move these out of the way now, and then I'm going to do a draw that is just like as if you were doing it with the players. So you're not obviously going to say to the players, this is this ally and this is where this item is. You would just read the things it tells you to read, and that is it. And then we'll talk afterwards about what the options are. So rather than shuffle again, I'll just take the newest ones from the top. So that was 3 from that deck, 2 from that one. Now we'll start again, so we'll pretend that this is me doing it in front of players, or you're doing it for your players. This card tells of history. Knowledge of the ancient will help you better understand your enemy. The Berserker card. Find the Mad Dog's crypt. The treasure lies within, beneath blackened bones. This card tells of a powerful force for good and protection, a holy symbol of great hope. The Shepherd card. Find the mother, she who gave birth to evil. This is a card of power and strength. It tells of a weapon of vengeance, a sword of sunlight. The Warrior card. That which you seek lies in the womb of darkness, the devil's lair, the one place to which he must return. This card sheds light on one who will help you greatly in the battle against darkness. Look for a dusk elf living amongst the Vistani. He has suffered a great loss and is haunted by dark dreams. Help him, and he will help you in return. Your enemy is a creature of darkness whose powers are beyond mortality. This card will lead you to him. The Beast card. The Beast sits on his dark throne. And that concludes the card reading at that point. So if we talk through what the three options would have been. Berserker for the the Tome of Strahd. Where are you? There you are. So we said that was Find the Mad Dog's Crypt. So that's in the catacombs of Castle Ravenloft. Shepherd for the Holy Symbol of Ravenkind. That's also in the catacombs of Castle Ravenloft, so that's in the King and Queen's tomb, Strahd's parents. No way. And then the third one, this is why, and I'll talk about this in a minute, why some people don't run the card reading rules as written, like if straight out of the book and make some changes, because the third card we've got is Strahd's tomb. So all three items are in one of the hardest to reach places, one of the highest level areas in the game, which would not be great for a party, especially if they were like a less experienced party, ones who shied away from combat and that sort of thing. The ally was Sia, and that's Casimir, the Dusk Elf in Vallaki. He only accompanies characters to Castle Ravenloft only after they lead him to the Amber Temple and do a favour for him. They help him to get the means to resurrect his dead sister. And Strahd is sitting on his throne in the audience hall. So Castle Ravenloft, Castle Ravenloft, Castle Ravenloft, guy who wants to go to Castle Ravenloft, and of course somewhere in Castle Ravenloft. So yeah, that's an interesting one. But hopefully that helps in terms of seeing how the card reading looks and how it's intended for, how it's supposed to be done, I guess, for people who were unsure or wanted a bit of reassurance or see a demo version, somebody else carry it out to sort of reassure you. I'll now spend the rest of this video talking about a few other things, alternative ways to run the Tarokka reading. And that's the demo part done. Now I'm going to talk through a bit more about alternatives people do to the card reading and some other stuff. There are people who don't like to do it random because it's risky. You could have items end up in Castle Ravenloft, which, you know, probably wouldn't be a problem if like maybe one of the items ended up in there in a sort of easy to reach place, but it can be quite tricky. Or they might get the Sunsword really early, or they might get the tome late, that kind of thing. Or the ally choice might be bad. It might be someone that the DM doesn't want to be an ally for the players. Then maybe you've got your eye on certain locations and certain people to be the ally. So what some people do is they remove cards first of all. So they keep it random, but they remove cards. This is what I did when I first ran Curse of Strahd a few years ago. So I removed all castle cards outside Madam Eva's tent. So one of the cards is literally, she's like, it's under my nose, and gives it straight away. Or any backtracking to anywhere they've been before, which is probably just going to be the village of Barovia. I can't take credit for this idea. I think I read it in Mandy Mod's guide or somewhere else. So I didn't come up with this idea. I saw somebody else suggest it and thought, that's a good idea. I'm going to do the same. If it helps, when I did it, I kind of went through the deck literally card by card, figuring out what to keep and remove. If you want to just remove the castle cards, a really easy way to do this is to look up the blog post on D&D Beyond called Strahd Must Die Tonight, which is intended as a sort of one-shot Castle Ravenloft adventure. And what happens in that version is the Tarokka draw is reduced just to the items in the castle. And so you're only meant to use, I think there's like 12 cards instead of 40, and it's just for the purposes of the castle. But if you do the opposite and remove those cards from that list, then that should be everything except for the castle cards. So what I'll do is I'll include a link to that blog post in the description of this video for people who want to have a look at that. There are people who stack and rig it. and they might do this in a number of ways. Maybe they've already pre-shuffled and have the cards laid out. If you play in person, for example, the players walk in the room and the cards are already laid out, and you've given the sort of impression that maybe you shuffled it earlier but you haven't. A classic one I've heard of is, you know, hand the cards to the players, they shuffle, but you've kept the 3 or say 5 cards you want aside behind your DM screen, and then when they give the cards back to you, you know, you quickly put it down, quickly put the cards you want on top, and then draw that way. But I think pretty much everyone I've seen who says they do this says that their players never notice. But I don't know, if I was a player and I saw the cards go behind the DM screen and then reappear, I'd be like, they were out of sight for a second there, but maybe that's just me. And there are some people who even do like, you know, like almost like magician style card tricks and sleight of hand and card out of the sleeve kind of thing. And then for people who play online, like I play through Roll20, you've got different layers. You have like the map layer, the token layer, which is what the players see, and the GM layer, which is what just the DM sees. And some people have it that they would have the cards ready and just show which cards they want. So there's pros and cons to each, and I kind of talk about this in a video I did where I say I'm not a fan of rigging it, but I'm also not a fan and completely understand that random is risky. And then I landed on a nice sort of in-between solution, and I put this on DM's Guild. It's called the 3-pile Tarokka technique, or Tarokka technique. See, I'm still saying it wrong. And as I record this, it recently became Copper bestseller, so I'm very happy about that. I didn't come up with the idea. I think I saw the idea online, but the person just said, oh, I split the 3 item cards into 3 little piles instead of having 1 big pile. But then it didn't say anything else. So I went to the effort of determining which cards should be in which pile and which cards to remove, such as earlier I was saying about removing castle cards. And, you know, for a couple of bucks, you can pick that up and try that approach. And I like to think it's the best of both worlds. It's random, or you still have the random effort, you shuffle in front of the players and deal the cards in front of the players, and it's not fully rigged, but it's heavily controlled. You know, the players are likely to get the Tome early, the Sunsword late, the Holy Symbol of Ravenkind somewhere in the middle. They shouldn't get the same location twice, and yeah, I think it's a good way to go about it. And I've gotten some good feedback from people who've used this so far. I did a demo video just for that as well, so feel free to check that out if you want to learn more and get an idea of the kinds of draws you can get. If your party skips the reading, because some groups skip Tser Pool Encampment and so don't see Madam Eva, in the book it says that Esmeralda can give the reading, so long as she's got access to her Tarokka deck, which is in her booby trapped wagon. And you hear many stories of that exploding, and therefore the Tarokka deck would probably be destroyed in the process. But another idea could be you bring the Tarokka reading to them. So if they make it to Vallaki, you could have Madam Eva. They hear whispers that Madam Eva is temporarily parked herself in the other Vistani camp outside Vallaki, the one that Aragorn and Luvash are the leaders are, and then she gives them the reading there, and that could be a good way to do it, so they don't have to backtrack all the way to Tser Pool Encampment later on if they find about it later on. And other uses for the Tarokka deck outside of the main draw in Curse of Strahd, I would probably do a separate video all about this, but I'd like to push people's attention to my other DM's Guild resource called the Second Tarokka Reading. This is for running a Ravenloft campaign after Curse of Strahd. So I ran Curse of Strahd a couple of years ago, and I'm now running a post Curse of Strahd wider Ravenloft campaign with the same players, with the same PCs, so beyond level 10. They defeat Strahd, they visit other domains of dread. And I came up with this system similar to the one in Curse of Strahd, where they have another second Tarokka reading, and that ushers them to ally and magic items spread out all the domains of dread, not just Barovia. So if you are considering doing a wider Ravenloft campaign after Curse of Strahd, you might want to check that out as well. I'll leave a link in the description, and there's a demo video of that as well. And I did a second video where I did a couple more demo draws to give an example of what kinds of things you can get. And that's it for this one. So upcoming videos, I recently put out a Fated Allies Part 1 video where I talk through, well, it's just the first half. I was going to say talk through all the Fated Allies. Once Part 2 is out, that'll be true. Part 2 hopefully will be the next Curse of Strahd video after this one, so in about 2 weeks time, if not sooner, if I get a chance. And I also in the past have done separate videos for Esmeralda and Van Richten as well, sort of dedicated videos just for those two. And I'm going to do a video as well after that of alternative Fated Allies. So if the list in the book doesn't appeal to you, some of them are other NPCs in Curse of Strahd, and some of them are NPCs you could add to Curse of Strahd, such as Jander Sunstar, the vampire, who there's an old Ravenloft novel called Vampire of the Mists, and he gets stuck in Barovia and ends up meeting and sort of befriending Strahd. It's an uneasy friendship, if you can call it a friendship at all, but then they become enemies and fight each other and stuff like that. And I also do Ravenloft videos where I talk through different domains of dread, how I've run them in my campaign, and talk about other NPCs as well. And depending on I put this out, I think one of my next videos is going to be how I ran Tovag, which is the dread domain, and the Dark Lord of that one is Kaz the Bloody Handed, Kaz the Destroyer, Kaz of millions of names, who is Vecna's rival. And I was inspired to run it after seeing Madam Eva Ruin. Even though I'm not running that, I still got it because I was kind of curious to see sort of later level play kind of monsters and stuff like that. And it inspired me to run Tovag for my players. So that video will be coming soon as well. Thank you, Mr. Andres.